Hello guys, this is Paula. I'm back today to do a Christmas embellishment for my Christmas journals. And I've done a few, they're drying. As soon as they dry, we'll cut them out so you can kind of get an idea what they'll end up looking like. I'm just decoupaging. I know a lot of you have decoupaged before, but I thought there might be some out there who have not. I'm hoping this won't be a very long video, but I just want to give you the ins and outs of how I do it. And I cut out my own tags out of just like poster board I buy at Hobby Lobby, and that's what this is right here. And I'm going to keep my scissors right here so it keeps, I've got parchment paper underneath here just to help hold down my paper. So let's get started. The first thing you do is separate your napkins. Now, some of them are just 2-ply, some are 3, some are even 4. So you always want to make sure, especially your more expensive napkins will be more than 2-ply. Now these, on the other hand, are not expensive. I try not to buy a lot, but this one I'm wrong. This has got a 2nd ply. So see, you have to be real careful because it didn't look like it. And as you pull this off, you want to be careful too so that you don't tear a hole in your napkin. All right, now you can either, some of the napkins or some of the things I've done already, I'll just show you this one, is I did paper piece this or napkin piece it or whatever you want to call it, but I did want the pine cones in the middle so I didn't tear them apart, but all this other stuff is. I'm not center, I'm not dead on, but that's okay. This is homemade. Okay, so if you want to separate your napkin without tearing anything, you can take a wet sponge. I'm going to try this. It's been a long time since I've tried to do this because usually I just lay it down. But you just go like this with your wet sponge and it will separate your napkin. So it's really simple. It's just like, it just makes it soft and it tears easier and you don't have to worry about it tearing in the wrong places. So I just want to put a poinsettia right here in this corner. So I put a little bit of water in my Mod Podge, but it gets thick every time. It gets thicker, so you just brush it onto your tag. You know, you don't have to cover the whole thing. I'm just going to cover the bottom third, and then I'm not going to put the gold trim that's right there. I'm not going to put that on there because it's it won't be on everything. So I'm just putting the poinsettia here in the corner. Now, I let it set there for a minute before I start brushing my top on because I feel like it tears more when you do that. Okay, so up in this area, I want some of these cardinals. Like this cardinal right here with the berries is what I think I want. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use my, excuse me, I'm turning this around where I can reach it better. I'm going to use my wet sponge and just kind of put it down and pull away from it. Now I'm trying not to tear this other flower while I'm at it, so I do put a glove on my left hand so I am less likely to get it all over me, but I keep my right hand free so I can have more control. There. Okay, so let's set that aside. Now you can, if you just want to piece it all, you can do that. I just want it to look like a scene, more or less. And so I'm going to go right over this part because I want it to overlap on my tag. But again, I'm not going to get the gold in there. And I'm going to try not to cover up my flower, my poinsettia. Okay, let's see if we can do that without too much disaster. And you want to make sure you hold it all up before you lay it down so you know it's where you want it to be, because once it's down, it's down. And yeah, that's how I wanted it. But I did get some wrinkles, and that is no big deal. It's hard not to. And I have a little space right here that doesn't have anything, so I'm just going to wet that. And I'm going to go back over here to my napkin and just find a section that I can just stick down there and make it look right, just to cover that edge too. Okay. All right, so there we go. We're moving. It's moving around. All right, so we have most of it done here. I think in this other corner, I'm going to put another flower. And I'm thinking which one I want here. They're all pretty much the same. It's just a flipped image. But I'm going to go ahead and get this one here. Let me make sure I'm in view for you guys. I'm going to, it's real easy when you're doing this to not realize you're out of camera. Because you have a tendency to want to pull it to you. Now I'm going to flip this napkin this time so that the flower is facing this other direction. And I don't want my bird to be covered. So I've got to carefully tear around that flower so he isn't covered. All right, so once again, you have to wet your tag with the Mod Podge and overlap it. Now I'm going to see if I can do this and make it look right. I think I need to pull some of that off right there too. I'm really just trying to get mostly the flower. Let's see. I don't want this gold in there. So I'm just going to tear a little bit of the flower off to avoid the gold. I may have to paper piece it a little bit in a spot or two, because I don't want it to, doesn't have to be the whole flower on here. I just want it to have some up in the corner. So there you see it overlapped a little bit onto the holly, but not bad. And I'm trying to think here which part I want to put down in this area. My paper wants to roll up on me today. Okay, let's do this little section right here, and because it's so small, I'm just going to do it with my hands, because I don't need a whole lot of it. But I don't want that goat strip, so I got to tear it off. Okay. All right. I put these gloves on because I just don't want to have to stand at the sink and scrub my hands for 2 hours to get it all off. It's hard enough to clean the brushes, but it's so worth it when you're done. You know, because it gives such a good look. All right, now we have everything down, so I'm just going to brush over it all gently. I'll brush over the whole thing. Now sometimes you do have to go back once it's dried and add a little bit more Mod Podge to the side of your tag. If it, you know, doesn't seal real good down on this side. Like that little piece was just trying to roll its way up just then. You have to be real careful because it will do that. See, like right there? Let's push it back gently. And sometimes you'll notice when it dries that you've missed an area or something too. So But you do want to cover the whole top because that's where you get that nice shine. And it also holds your napkin on. Now, of course, it's real hard. It wants to attach to you the whole time you're doing it. I think I'm going to put this little piece right there. Got a little white space, and I don't care if it folds up a little bit. That just gives it some texture. Okay, now this is the tag. I'm going to set it over here to the side to dry while we're doing one more thing. Now, I have not done Mod Podge on, let me lay this down, on craft paper before. So, that's what we're going to try. See what happens. We're going to use the same technique and see what happens by using it on this craft. Now, I'm just going to get one of the poinsettias, or I might do the cardinals from the middle of the napkin. They're really pretty. And then we can always add the flowers around the sides of the, of the journaling card. Trying to get up here so I don't get out of camera. Sorry if I am, guys. It's kind of hard to watch my camera and do something like this at the same time. I try to kind of always keep an eye on it so I don't get out of line of the camera. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do this one just kind of like this. And, well, let me think. Let's do it like this. I want this one here. Let's just do it where he's kind of, one's going to be up and one's going to be down. And that's not a big deal. Because when you pull your journaling card out, it's going to be fine. But let's just see what it's going to look like on this craft. I'm sure a lot of you have done it on craft before. But I just have a tendency to grab white, when I do decoupage. But you don't necessarily have to. Let's see. Maybe we want to make it look more like he's sitting on the branch. Let's do this. See, it just wants to attach everywhere. One's going to be off to one side and one's going to be off to the other side. I'm going to kind of straighten it out a little bit while it's still wet. I normally will wait, but there's a few little wrinkles or ripples or whatever you want to call them that I didn't like, so I was trying to get those out right there in the middle. And it's not perfect, but you know what, it's good enough. I'm getting at the bottom of my Mod Podge and it just doesn't want to. Okay, now we're going to add, let's add this flower, or this poinsettia. And I'm going to pull the little straggly things off here, and they're going to attach to my glove, because that's what it does. It attaches to everything. Okay, so we're going to do this corner down here, just down low enough that it doesn't attach or cover up your bird. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this last one here. Now you've got a choice here. You can do another flower, or you can do the bird, but I'm going to do the flower. I think I like that look. But I'm going to tear all I can off of here. And sometimes I forget to grab my little wet sponge, but when you want it to be a certain shape, you want it to not show like a definite circle. This is the way I like to do it. Okay, now I don't want to cover his tail up, so I'm going off to the side there. There. Now, we've got this little bird left, and I think I'm going to turn him the same direction as this bird, just because it makes more sense. Or we could turn him another way and it would make more sense then as well. So let's do that. We'll just have him hanging off the side of the tag. Okay. I bought 3 different Christmas napkins at Tuesday morning. You know, I didn't wait because Hobby Lobby and Michael's don't have their Christmas napkins out yet, but they have a lot of their other stuff, but they don't have their napkins out. Makes it hard for somebody who wants to decoupage Christmas. But I found some yesterday at Tuesday morning. So if you're looking for it, that's where I found mine. They also had a little more than normal Tim Holtz items at Tuesday morning this time. You know, my Tuesday morning will have his stuff ever so often, and sometimes it might go a while before I can get anything else. Okay, now down in this one corner we have a little bit of a bare spot, so I'm going to put this right here. Now, we're not going to do a whole lot because I did some beforehand so that I could have this ready for you to see. I hope you're able to see what I'm doing here. If not, I'm so sorry. It's hard to stay up here. Now, I've covered it all, so I'm going to set this aside and let it dry, and we'll see what it looks like whenever it... Sorry, I'm hitting my door over here. Let's see. I'm going to grab some of these that I've already done. So, this is one of the napkins as well that I'm going to take these gloves off now that I'm down to cutting. Still a little wet, but this is a tag, and I'll cover it with tea stained paper and stitch around it in either red or maybe even gold. I don't know. My sewing machines really don't like gold that well. I gotta put my brush in this water before I forget. That will be a mess. And then you just flip your tag over and cut, and be very careful because it's not completely dry. And just to give us an idea, I would put either gold or silver. Probably, this has some silver in it, so I'd probably put like a silver twine or thin ribbon in this or on this tag, just because I think that would look good. And when it completely dries, I'll poke my hole. There you go. That's turning out pretty good. I think I'm pleased with these little napkins because this is pretty generic. It'll go with just about any kind of kit. So we have another tag that I cut out. I use my tag template, and I just get like poster board. It's, you know, the heavier version of poster board. It's not flimsy. Now, when it gets wet, it does move a little bit, but it will straighten right back up because I've done decoupage on this for a long time. Now, this corner doesn't appear to be completely glued down. So I'll go back and touch up all the corners when everything's cut out. I'll wait till everything's cut out to do that. I had a little bit of napkin that kind of overlapped into the back. That's not a big deal because we're going to be covering up. So you still have to be careful because that, like right there, is still wet. If I would have pulled that more, I would have lost the top part of my tag. Now, you get little pieces of napkin everywhere, but that's all right. That's part of the fun. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside, and then I'm going to show you what else I've got. over here I have this tag. I'm gonna flip it over so we can trim it, and it's pretty much drying as well, or dry. It's not as wet as the ornaments was. Your cheaper napkins also, decoupage is a little rougher on them, and they have more of a tendency to tear. But, you know, I just look at it like, I don't know if you'd call these cheap or not. I paid $4 a pack. But I'm sure it's cheaper than like Hallmark or something. But anyway, I just patch it with that same color and it turns out fine. There's that one. And then I did, now this is all rolled up because it's still wet, but when this dries, I will decoupage the inside as well, because I like my cards to have the same texture. I won't decoupage with napkins, I'll just cover it with a coat of decoupage. And I may, you know, if I want to put a little bit of a decoupage on there, I could. But this is still pretty wet. I can tell that I soaked this one pretty good. There must have been a reason. But, because it's one of the first things I did. And it's still pretty good and wet. Just want to follow along the shape of the item that you're working on. Trying to get that off that napkin that kind of folded over. You have to be careful about that as well. But one of my favorite things to do is decoupage. I have made canister sets. I have done everything you can imagine with decoupage. And, you know, I'll do mixed media with it. It's just fun. Because every one turns out a little different, unless you just use the whole print. Then, of course, that does make a difference. Okay, so this one's going to fold right here, but it's still a little bit wet. But how cool is that? And then I'll coat the inside once the outside's dry. I don't know if it can handle any more decoupage right now. Let me get a couple more things. Actually, one more thing. And the other ones that I have are still drying, the ones we did together. Okay. All right, and this is again another card. I like to do cards and tags, and sometimes I'll do envelopes. Now, if you do envelopes, you want to put something inside your envelope. Otherwise, you're going to seal it down. But it just has a cool look. And so I may do some envelopes as well. Just have to see. I think after doing all three napkins, my favorite is the birds and the poinsettias. But I mean, these others are pretty too, you know, and they're all going to do just fine. I am going to be doing a poinsettia album, and I'm going to do one that has, I think there's one that has ornaments, and then I think there's another gingerbread man and wreaths, and I'm also going to do nativity. So I have some beautiful nativity fabric. So there's the card, and again I will do the inside of the card. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that since we're not running we're going to do it really fast because I don't want this to be a super long video. I know you guys time is very important. Okay. And you want to make sure when you do the inside that you do it quickly. And, you know, I don't worry about the direction. I don't care if it shows little streaks. I just don't care. Just shows it's homemade. And, and down the road, when I do my albums, you'll get to see the other one when it's complete. But, and you'll get to see them once I've added ribbon and whatever else. You could even, and I might do this with one of them at some point. Whoops, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is kind of a slippery slope here. Trying to hang on to it and brush it at the same time is not as easy. I don't want to put my fingerprint in there if I can keep from it. It's going to be hard. There, I'll cover it up. Okay. All right, guys. So we have the pine cones. And we have the ornament tags. And we have the journaling tag, which is still wet. But I'll tell you, it still looks brown. I think I prefer the white. Let me grab it. It's still wet, so I definitely cannot. But see, it still has that brown look in the background. So I don't think I like decoupaging on the craft. I just wanted to try it. I think it looks better on the white. So, once again, we've got our cards and our tags. And I hope you had fun today. And there'll be a video coming up soon on the 3 little pigs. So, not the 3 little pigs. Whew, it's been one of those days. The 3 bears. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Please remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Bye.